What if loneliness isn't a lack, but a signal? What if loneliness isn't a sign something's wrong with you? What if it's a sign you're finally seeing things clearly? You ever felt lonely in a room full of people? Like everyone's laughing, scrolling, talking, but none of it really touches you. That's not failure. That's awareness. Most people aren't connecting. They're performing, acting out roles they didn't choose, smiling on cue, posting highlights, saying what they're supposed to say to look connected, not be connected. So when you start to feel that ache, when the noise starts to feel hollow, it's not because you're broken. It might mean you're waking up. Nietzsche once said, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." Maybe your loneliness isn't isolation. Maybe it's altitude. You're not weird for craving more depth, more truth, more real. You're just not willing to play the game anymore. And yeah, that can feel like standing alone in a crowd that's hypnotized. But here's the twist. That kind of loneliness is sacred. It's not a void. It's a signal. A flare from your soul that says, this surface-level life, it isn't enough. And maybe, just maybe, that means you're not lost. You're on the edge of something real. So don't numb it. Don't run from it. Pay attention to it. Because that silence inside you, that disconnection, it might be the first honest thing you've felt in years. So the question isn't how to feel less lonely. It's whether you're brave enough to sit with it and listen to what it's trying to tell you. Let's go deeper. We were taught to trust the crowd. They told you fitting in would make you happy. Be social, be likable, blend in, trust the crowd. But here's the thing. Have you ever truly felt seen in a crowd? Or do you just feel invisible in plain sight? Surrounded but not known. Smiling but not felt. That's the lie no one talks about. We were taught that belonging means approval. But approval doesn't equal connection. It just means you're following the script. Most group dynamics aren't built on presence. They're built on performance. You say what you're supposed to say, wear what you're supposed to wear, and laugh at the right moments. It's a mask party, just with better lighting and Wi-Fi. And yet we wonder why it feels so empty, so fake. Real belonging isn't about changing yourself to fit the group. It's about finding spaces where you can drop the act, where silence isn't awkward, where you don't have to earn your right to exist. But that kind of space, it's rare. And it's not found by chasing the crowd. It's found by risking solitude. Because sometimes you have to lose the group to find yourself. So if you've been feeling disconnected, even in the middle of everything, maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're waking up. And here's the next question. If the crowd can't give you truth, where do you find it? From ancient Rome to Instagram, we've always been alone together. We like to think loneliness is a modern problem, a side effect of smartphones or social media. The truth is, we've always been alone together. In ancient Rome, people flooded the forums, the markets, the baths. Public life was the life. You showed up. You performed. You watched and were watched. Sound familiar? Scroll through Instagram and you'll see the same thing, just with filters and hashtags. It's not new. It's just digital. Fast forward to Enlightenment-era cafes. Everyone sipping coffee, debating ideas, pretending to connect. But even then, true intimacy was rare. The goal wasn't depth. It was performance, being seen, being clever, being in. Post-war city life? Same pattern. Crowded streets, packed offices, busy bars. Yet people passed each other like ghosts. Cities full of strangers pretending not to be lonely. And now, here we are, Billions of people, all more connected than ever, and yet loneliness is spiking like never before. Why? Because the illusion of belonging has gotten more convincing, but no less hollow. We've traded real presence for performance, touch for a like, eye contact for a comment, shared silence for a shared playlist. And it's not just sad, it's dangerous. Because when we confuse attention for connection, we forget what actual human presence feels like. So maybe the issue isn't you. Maybe it's the stage we've all been taught to perform on. And if you're starting to see through it, if the script feels off, that's not dysfunction, that's clarity. The next step? Learning how to live off script. Sartre's bomb, hell is other people. Sartre dropped that line like a bomb, and people still misunderstand it. He didn't mean all human connection is torture. He meant this: the moment someone looks at you, you become an object in their world. Not you, but a version of you, a projection, a character that fits their expectations, their fears, their story. That's the gaze. And once you're seen through it, it's hard not to play along. You laugh a little too hard. You speak a little less honestly. You start editing yourself mid-sentence. Why? Because you're no longer living as yourself. You're living through their eyes. That's what Sartre calls bad faith. It's when you abandon your own truth just to maintain the role you've been cast in. The funny one, the nice one, the smart one, the put-together one. You perform it long enough, and something scary happens. You start believing it's who you are, and that's the real hell. Not the people themselves, but the prison of performance. You feel disconnected, hollow, fake. Not because you're broken, but because you've spent so long being seen that you've forgotten how to be. You become a stranger to your own reflection. And what's worse? We need people. We crave connection. But the more we live for their gaze, the less we're able to show up as ourselves. It's a paradox. We want to be seen, but we fear being exposed. So what do? Do you keep shape-shifting just to stay liked? Or do you start risking rejection to reclaim your real self? Because freedom doesn't come from being accepted by the crowd. It comes from being true in front of it. And that takes guts. In the next section, we'll talk about what happens when you stop performing and why most people never dare to try. You think you're free? Think again. Most people confuse freedom with options. Swipe left, swipe right. Pick a job, pick an identity, pick a lifestyle. But Sartre flips the script. Real freedom isn't about how many choices you have. It's about owning the weight of those choices. It means taking full responsibility for who you are, even when the world hands you a script and says, just play the part. That's the part we don't like to hear. We say we want freedom, but when it actually shows up, raw and unfiltered, it's terrifying. Because it means there's no one left to blame. No parents, no system, no crowd to hide behind. Just you, staring in the mirror, owning your life or avoiding it. And here's the twist. That burden? That's why we run back to the crowd. Not because we love being part of it, but because it gives us cover. It gives us structure. Everyone else is doing it. This is just how it is. Convenient lies. Sartre called it bad faith for a reason. It's not just inauthentic. It's a betrayal of your own freedom. So no, you're not as free as you think. Not if your choices are just reactions. Not if your life is shaped more by fear than by truth. The real question isn't, are you free? It's, are you willing to be? And next, we'll talk about what that kind of freedom actually demands. Loneliness is a side effect of honesty. Here's the truth nobody warned you about. The moment you stop pretending, you start losing people. When you stop smiling just to keep the peace, stop agreeing just to fit in, stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable, people will leave. Or worse, they'll say you've changed, and you have. You stopped performing. You started being honest. And honesty? It's a lonely road, at first, because most relationships are built on mutual illusions. You play your role, they play theirs, and everyone feels safe in the script. But the second you step off that stage, it all starts to unravel. It's not personal. It's just that your truth threatens their comfort. But here's what makes it worth it. When you stop losing yourself to keep others around, something shifts. The loneliness doesn't vanish, but it becomes cleaner, quieter, more real. You're no longer surrounded by noise. You're alone with you. And for the first time, that's enough. Sartre would say this is the price of authenticity. The courage to be instead of seem. And yeah, it's hard. But what's the alternative? Living your whole life as a version of yourself designed by other people? So if you're feeling more alone lately, maybe that's not a sign you're doing it wrong. Maybe it means you're finally doing it right. Strategic isolation. Stop seeking shallow belonging. Isolation isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's a strategy. Sartre's not telling you to be a recluse or cut ties with the world. He's saying, stop chasing shallow belonging. Stop clinging to relationships where your freedom comes with a price tag, where you're only loved when you stay small, agreeable, familiar. That's not connection. That's quiet captivity. What you want, what you deserve, is mutual freedom. Relationships where both people are real, messy, evolving, where you're not punished for growing, where honesty isn't a threat, it's the glue. Think about someone like James Baldwin. He left America, not to escape, but to see clearly, to create from truth, not trauma. Or Nina Simone, who stopped smiling for audiences and started singing for herself. They weren't isolating out of fear. They were reclaiming their space, their voice, their authenticity. And yes, it cost them. But it also carved out space for real belonging. This is what Sartre points to. Don't default to isolation. But don't fear it either. Use it. Let it strip away what's false. Then, when you do reconnect, it's on your terms. Conscious, awake, free. So stop begging for scraps of connection from people who only love the edited version of you. You don't need more friends. You need truer ones. The next time you feel alone, don't panic. Ask yourself, is this loneliness, or is it finally the absence of noise? And what might you hear if you actually listened? Being alone isn't the problem. Being false is. We're taught to fear being alone, like it's the worst-case scenario. But here's the real danger. It's not loneliness. It's self-erasure. It's waking up one day and realizing you've edited yourself so many times, there's barely anything real left. The crowd doesn't ask for truth. It asks for performance. Be agreeable, be entertaining, be predictable, and we comply, because deep down, we just want to be accepted. But at what cost? You laugh at jokes that don't land. You nod along to opinions you don't believe. You keep your real thoughts quiet, your real self buried, just to keep the peace. And maybe you're surrounded by people, but you're not there. Not really. That's the slow death no one talks about. Sartre's whole point. It's better to be alone than to live as a ghost in your own life. Loneliness is uncomfortable, but it's honest. And sometimes, that discomfort is what finally forces you to face yourself. To ask who you are without the noise, without the masks. So yeah, Being alone is hard, but being false is soul-crushing, and no amount of connection is worth trading your truth. Here's the shift. Don't just ask, "Am I connected?" Ask, "Am I still myself in this connection?" Because if the answer's no, it's not love. It's performance. How to stay real in a world that isn't. So how do you stay real in a world that's constantly pressuring you to perform? You start by getting clear on who you are, not who you're expected to be. Sartre said it best. Existence precedes essence. That means you're not born with a fixed identity. You become through your choices, through what you say yes to, and what you refuse. Start with journaling. Not to be poetic, but to be honest. Write what you really think, what you're afraid to say out loud, what roles you're tired of playing. Give yourself permission to stop performing, even just on the page. Then, practice saying no. Not aggressively, but intentionally. No to plans that drain you. No to people who only show up for the edited you. Every no is a boundary, and every boundary is a vote for your real self. And finally, ask yourself this: what masks am I wearing that no longer fit? Are you still playing the peacemaker, the overachiever, the one who has it all together? Let those roles go. Not overnight, but piece by piece. Because in a world built on image, staying real is radical. And staying real means choosing yourself again and again. Even when it's uncomfortable. You're not here to be what others expect. You're here to become who you choose to be. Loneliness might be the beginning of freedom. What if loneliness isn't the end, but the beginning? Not a sign you're broken, but proof you're waking up. Waking up from the need to please, from the addiction to approval, from the constant hustle to be liked, accepted, chosen. Because when you stop bending to fit into spaces that don't feel real, things get quiet, people disappear, the noise fades. And that can feel like loss, but it's actually the start of freedom. You're no longer performing for applause. You're starting to live for truth. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. It'll stretch you, test you, but it also clears space for real connection. The kind built on presence, not performance. The kind where you don't have to edit yourself to be worthy. Sartre showed us freedom isn't easy. It's earned. It starts with the courage to be alone and the willingness to stay true in the silence. So don't run from your loneliness. Listen to it. Let it sharpen you. Let it strip away what's false. Because on the other side of that silence is you.